All right, so diving in today, of course, on the topic of crypto and blockchain regulatory issues as it's facing the industry point blank. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. Joining me today is, of course, Mr. Tom Emmer, Congressman, coming out of the 6th District of Minnesota, but looks like you're in D.C., Congressman.
I am. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Good to have you back. Let's get into a little bit about the blockchain task force. Congressman, I know you lead that. Where are you guys in terms of the current status of what activities are going on, kind of some of the issues and initiatives that are underway?
Well, the task force, you're talking about the blockchain caucus, because the task force is, that's when you say that, Paul, that brings back the task force on the committee. The blockchain caucus is a group of Republican and Democrat members who have an interest in blockchain technology and what it's fostered across this country. It was originally started, by the way, by people like Mick Mulvaney and Dave Schweikert and Jared Polis, the current governor of Colorado. Very small back then, Paul. It's grown quite a bit. The Blockchain Caucus is now the go-to in Congress when it comes to issues that involve blockchain, which primarily in the last couple of months has been crypto. Ever since the Senate and Senator Portman decided to try to tax a very broad tax that they put in, which isn't going to generate what they think it's going to generate, the $27 billion. Guess what? A lot of people in Washington, D.C. learned a lot in a very short period of time about blockchain technology and about crypto that uses it and other promising opportunities. I'll put it this way, Paul. When a U.S. senator gets 40,000 calls in one day from the community, the industry, people that are investors and others, they take notice. So again, the Blockchain Caucus is great because we were already there. We're the go-to for information when it comes to this sort of thing in Congress.
How are you, with the Blockchain Caucus, how are you guys keeping up with some of the massive changes that we're seeing both in the technology, but also some of the companies? Obviously we've seen a lot of movement in NFTs and NFT gaming over the last few months. We're seeing obviously a very hot market right now on the investment side with traditional crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera. How do you keep up with the educational aspect, just so you're up to the latest, greatest that's happening in this community?
Well, it really is the individual member and that member's office. The Blockchain Caucus is where a group of members who are similarly interested in a topic actually can start to compare notes, and you can formulate some strategies and policies that you agree on. But literally the question you just asked is dependent on an individual member and his or her staff. You want to keep up. It's about the people you surround yourself with in the office, because you can only do so much. And that really is one of the strengths that we have in my office. It's the people that are doing the work. Literally, we put out with Lizzie in my office every Friday a newsletter on crypto and what's happened, for interested parties. It's one of the ways we keep up. So working with the staff, and it's a fast-moving area, as you know, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Congressman, we had a chance to watch your interview and exchange with Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, in reference to his positioning of really, one, regulating crypto and in general digital assets, blockchain technology. You kind of put him on the hot seat a couple of times. Your position on his understanding, do you believe that the SEC truly understands what they are taking on right now in terms of trying to regulate what's happening in blockchain and crypto technology?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do. I think, you could attribute Chair Gensler's remarks to ignorance because he believes that almost all tokens are securities within his purview. I adamantly disagree, and I think the community would disagree. That most of us would say the vast majority of tokens out there are either a currency or a commodity. Chair Gensler, though, is a very smart person. And I say that, Paul, because for all those that are watching this great show that you put on, keep in mind what he did in the Senate and what he did in the House. He used a term that doesn't exist. He referred to stable value coins. Why would he do that? I mean, is he ignorant about the industry? No, not at all. There's something called stable value funds that are under the umbrella, the jurisdiction of the SEC. I think it was very intentional. And I think what he's doing right now is very intentional. In fact, right now within the administration, I think what they're trying to do, and this is just a speculation on my part, but my belief is they are trying to gain control over this incredibly fast growing, very lucrative industry and offering for several reasons. One, they think it's a challenge to the central currency, right? Mm-hmm. They want to be able to control that. So they've got outrageous ideas, outrageous to me, of creating a U.S. central bank digital currency. By the way, their idea would emulate the Communist Party of China. I don't think we should be emulating the Communist Party of China. They want to tax it. They suddenly have seen a revenue opportunity, at least that's what they think, because the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, allegedly lobbied Senator Rob Portman to put that amendment into the bipartisan infrastructure bill that allegedly would generate about $27 billion. But this net that they threw out there included people that don't even custody funds, as you'll recall. It could touch miners and others, developers, right? Project developers. So long and short, I got off on a tangent, but Gensler's comments last week showed me that they are trying to grow their regulatory jurisdiction over this industry.
I think that's a very good statement in the sense that, one, you're looking at the SEC currently in what I've always understood in my research, years of research around the SEC and the regulatory mission that they have in terms of serving the American people. And that is kind of the bazooka effect, meaning let's go shoot the big elephants. Let's get the ones that are really defining big moves in the market and are affecting retail investors. But going after this, kind of somewhat, a nest of hornets, I would call it, in terms of blockchain. It reminds me a lot about the internet when it was being born in the mid-90s. We saw massive movement and advancement, also saw the dot-bomb period as well. But we saw massive advancement in technology on just what we know now as web, as the internet. What we've seen now in blockchain is really kind of moving in that direction. Because the SEC typically does not have the firepower to go after 500 or 1,000 different technology variations that are out there in cryptocurrency and blockchain in general. How would they even approach it? Do you think it's just one of those scenarios they're trying to control the stablecoin aspect of this, or make someone like Ripple or XRP an example to try to essentially kind of secure the market through a little bit of fear?
Or worse yet, I mean, you've got a Fed Reserve chair who has suggested that if we create a central bank digital currency, there will be no need for cryptocurrencies.
For stables,
right? It's interesting that you comment about the SEC and their, the bandwidth that they might have to do this. Let's keep in mind, though, that what Chair Gensler and the SEC are doing right now is they're literally creating regulation that doesn't exist, by the way, through enforcement or threatened enforcement.
Right.
So even though they may not have the resources, as you point out, to go after all these different things, how do you know if you're going to be the one, right? Yeah. If they're just suggesting and creating confusion in the marketplace, this was my whole point with the chair last week, that you can't do this with your conclusory statements out in the public. you literally could cause harm. And I use the example. You got somebody who offers a token. They agree with Chair Gensler that that token is a security, right? That token offering. So they register with the SEC. And I asked the chair point blank, I said, under that scenario, once they've registered with the SEC, will they be able to trade on the New York Stock Exchange? Will they be able to trade on NASDAQ? And he started to answer, which was very frustrated, typical government speak. Well, it depends on, the New York Stock Exchange and what their rules are. Of course it does. But right now, under the rules that exist, no, they would not be able to trade on either of those exchanges. I also gave him an example that one statement by his office could cause an investment to crash. And guess what? That would harm investors, which is the direct opposite of what his mission is at the SEC. So whether it's Chair Gensler, whether it's Chair Powell, or it's Treasury Secretary Yellen, and the list goes on and on. I mean, you've got a potential appointment to the OCC that could be very problematic as well. Ms. Amavara, a Cornell law professor, Paul, you probably are aware, and I just have her quotes in front of me because they're so amazing. She wants to end banking as we know it, and she thinks digital tokens perpetuate the dysfunctional financial system we already have. I got news for you. The crypto space is actually empowering people who have never been able to get into the financial system. Right. So it's just the opposite of what she thinks, or at least her statements. Again, it goes back to your question: is there a purpose to what they're doing and saying? Do they actually have an end game that they're pursuing, or do they just not understand what they're dealing with? I think there is an agenda, but I'm not clear on what it is right now. And really, let's go back to the purpose. We need clarity in all this stuff so that we can continue. We've got 55 million Americans in the crypto market. You got a market that's almost $2 trillion in value, fastest growing thing that we've seen in decades. Let's look at it as an opportunity, and as a government, let's try to work with this industry and the people that are driving it to grow it and create even bigger opportunities right here in the United States.
Congressman, when the internet was born in the mid-90s, because it has a lot of similarities to what's happened here with blockchain technology, there was legislation that came into force to essentially not only protect but also secure kind of the future of technology advancement that we are seeing. Cryptocurrency will be just one of the sidebar assets that starts to accrue, much like, if you were doing a private investment in an angel, round company, or doing a startup in Silicon Valley in the mid-90s or early 2000s. I look at that in a very similar way. And you're right, 50 plus million people now, US, investing in this type of environment and the potential future here. We also saw, of course, Mr. Powell come in and say no plans to ban Bitcoin or crypto assets, but yet we have kind of the doublespeak coming in from the SEC that's, throwing out these scenarios around regulatory issues, things of that nature. Is there a group within DC right now that understands the needs of where both crypto, blockchain, NFTs are going and how to regulate? Because I think a lot of people within the industry, very smart operators, innovators, et cetera, they want clarity and regulation just so they can move forward with, developing their business models and hoping to serve the industry. Is there enough information in DC right now that regulatory guidelines or rails could be put in place?
So when you say rails, I think you and I both would agree that when you go back to the internet example, one, I'm not opposed to regulation.
Sure.
Regulation is not inherently a bad thing. But when the internet was starting off and was allowed to grow, the thing that allowed it to grow was a light touch by the government in terms of the regulation. And you've seen as the internet has aged, there have been regulations new that have come to light that are needed. But at the beginning, government did not smother the development of the internet with undue heavy-handed regulation. I think right now when you say, is there a group in Congress? Well, first off, it would be the Blockchain Caucus. But the group that I've been working with most closely, because we've got a problem with the chair of the Financial Services Committee right now, she's not allowing any of this to move. I've got several bills out there. The Securities Clarity Act we offered it's a bipartisan bill that we offered back in July. This would create an investment contract asset, which is important because it would allow the SEC to understand when a token is a security and when it's not.
Right.
Just a minor change in the law. We've got the Safe Harbor for Taxpayers with Forked Assets Act. You can be holding a crypto asset. It can split, right? You can have a split, and the government wants to tax you on the split when, one, you may not have even wanted it, and two, you might not even have known it happened. Right. We've got the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. Again, another a bipartisan bill that would preempt state law, so you wouldn't have to get 53 licenses to do this work in different states and jurisdictions within the United States. These are all important, but there is a group on the Republican side that I've been working with that is looking forward to a day when we have perhaps a different direction of leadership on the Financial Services Committee. If for instance, that would happen in the next Congress, there will be a package of things that will be offered immediately. All of these bills, I'd love to see them move right now, Paul, but the environment that we're in with the administration having its agenda, which we're not exactly clear on in the crypto space, with Congress itself not exactly working in a hand-in-glove fashion, as is noted by the fact that I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C., for 23 hours this week. I just think that better times are going to come, and when they do, we need to have these things that we've already offered. We need to have people educated on why they're important, why they will make a difference, why they will help this industry grow in a safe fashion so that all Americans can enjoy the opportunity to participate. And, right now, the best we can do is continue to push them, see if we can get them to the floor somehow through a hearing, and if nothing else, make sure we're educating everybody in this environment why these are so important.
So what you're saying is that this is most likely going to change the guard in the midterm, providing that either the Republican side were able to gain control of this particular side of Congress in terms of making these decisions and allowing these kinds of acts to at least see the floor and get voted on, that's going to happen. So we're going to see that maybe in the midterms. Is that kind of the direction you're pointing at right now?
Yeah, I'm trying not to be as partisan. I'm trying to suggest that, yes, if there is a flip in the House, which I believe there will be in the midterms, Republicans, I believe, will take back the majority. That will give us new leadership on the committee, and this will allow us to advance these through the Financial Services Committee. But I will also suggest that there are some Democrat colleagues who not only serve with me on the committee, but they're members of the Blockchain Caucus that could easily be in leadership on the Financial Services Committee, who would be willing to move this agenda that is pro-industry, pro-private entrepreneurial development, this light touch type regulation that will allow this industry to grow and prosper while at the same time maintaining some light regulatory approach. I do believe there are some members on the other side that I work with all the time who would advance that. We just do not have the leadership in the Financial Services Committee right now to allow that.
Yeah. Congressman, I want to jump to another topic, and that is the issue on crypto yield and kind of this new infrastructure we've seen with many companies that are paying high yields for whether it's stable coins or crypto assets being parked in these types of companies, which essentially is called decentralized finance, and its movement around really challenging banks for the first time on the ability to compete with banks for customers' deposits. How do you see that playing out over the next couple of years? We've had Celsius, guys with Nexo, different companies that do this. Celsius, an American company who's now faced with some situations in Texas, Alabama, et cetera. some other states that are questioning and really just needing clarification of where they're going. Do you see DeFi really becoming an issue of, I won't say a challenge to the banking system, but at least drawing the banks out to where they have to make more, positive initiatives for their customers?
I do. I think a free marketplace, when it's truly free, allows disruption and growth at the same time that it creates an environment for existing, or those, as we have come to know, our banking system historically. And I think the beauty of DeFi is that it gives everyone the opportunity to build capital, by the way, without asking our banking friends for permission, or for that matter, asking our government for permission. I think obviously on DeFi platforms, you can loan crypto, you can borrow crypto, you can buy and sell crypto. People like it because it could actually root out fraud and bias that's found in traditional banking, which I would think for the current leadership on the House Financial Services Committee should be a good thing, because that's what she's always interested in, right? Access to the financial system, access to the opportunity to grow capital and actually start new projects, new ideas. Tomorrow's small business that turns into our future's big business. So I think DeFi is part of our future. And I think it's going to be good in the banking community, right? It's kind of like crypto. You look at these huge banks, and they didn't like it to begin with. I remember a certain guy who runs a certain bank in New York that was totally anti-crypto. Turns out, I understand one of his family members was heavily involved in crypto, and he slowly became a believer, and now believes that his bank should be involved in looking at these opportunities and participating. Look, disruption in the marketplace, Paul, is what has made this country great. It's entrepreneurs, it's innovation. Government should not stand in the way. Government should not smother it. Government should allow this to grow, and do not allow the existing marketplace, even though they're our friends as well, do not allow them to fence out all competition. Because the more that we can allow these great things to happen, guess what? The more opportunities you're going to create for more people. And that ultimately should be the goal, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or other.
Quickly, Congressman, about El Salvador, a little bit of their movement around Bitcoin. A lot of their people who were essentially untouchable in the banking system, they just did not have bank accounts, have now moved into the financial system for the first time. That could be the case here in the U.S., especially around immigrants who are first-time, immigrants in the country, developing their lives and their livelihoods. All of that's a potential opportunity. Do you see that as being a huge case for crypto in D.C.?
I do. I think it's really important that we emphasize that because, as I said, I think one of the things that our chair on the Financial Services Committee is most concerned about is financial inclusion, is that everybody have that same Main Street opportunity that Americans have enjoyed, but not all Americans have enjoyed for whatever reason. And I think DeFi and the opportunities it presents, quite frankly, this whole industry, the opportunity it presents is for the little guy and gal, that may never have had access to the financial system, that may suddenly find themselves with new power to self-determine, to create their own destiny. And that's why I think it's such a great opportunity. And that's why I think that it will coexist with the banking system as we know it today. The banking system, quite clearly, is going to have to evolve, but everything has to evolve. And I think there's nothing bad about an opportunity that's going to, about an industry that's going to give people an opportunity to join the financial prosperity that this country offers when they haven't been able to do so in the past.
Yeah, for sure. I want to hit on 2 points here that I think our audience would be, one, just to kind of educate themselves around what's happening in DC and what they can do to get involved. One is specific things that the SEC is essentially doing right now, short term, Is there anything that the SEC could be on plan or on guidance for short term that would have impacts in the next, say, 6 months on crypto or blockchain technology?
You know, we're supposed to be seeing well, there's a white paper that's supposed to be coming out. I can't remember if that's the Treasury or the SEC, but we're supposed to see some suggestions from this administration that could have an impact. And I'm going to tell you, Paul, the problem I've got is, and some in the community have signaled already potential red flags. In fact, I saw something from Brian Brooks over the last few days expressing some concern over potential statements coming out of the federal government, out of the administration. The problem with these, again, it goes back to my conversation with Chair Gensler. If you don't have clarity, if you don't have a clear understanding of what the rules of the road are, it confuses the marketplace, and it doesn't assist when people are trying to start new projects or people who are looking to invest in new projects. So I guess the most important thing that people watching this program should do is be in contact with your elected representatives, your senators, your representatives. Make sure they understand that this is important to you. I said early that 40,000 calls into a senator's office in one day in August kind of forces the elected official to put his or her head up from the sand and say, wait a second, this is a real industry, and this is an industry that a lot of people see as a great opportunity for themselves and others. Maybe we should start to pay a little bit more attention and try to work with them to make sure that it's a great opportunity for everyone, and that those opportunities stay in this country.
On board there. Last question to you, Mr. Emmer, and that is order flow regulation. So Gensler is essentially kind of talking about potentially putting order flow regulation in place. This would affect companies like Robinhood, who are trying to essentially move into allowing their users, millions of users, to engage in cryptocurrency for the first time. If that were to go in place, Robinhood has come out and gave a statement essentially saying this would essentially destroy their crypto business and also potentially much of the earning potential of a lot of new time investors. Your thoughts on order flow regulation from the SEC?
Well, you just hit exactly what the direction of my questioning of Chair Gensler was all about last week. Look, we're interested in protecting all Americans, and in particular in this one, the little guy and the little gal that's just trying to climb that economic ladder and achieve the financial opportunities that this country provides to all Americans, that it's supposed to provide. Chair Gensler doing something like that with order flows, and regardless of who it is that's involved in the marketplace, that is in direct contradiction to the stated mission of the SEC. So, Paul, believe me when I say we are not going to let this happen, at least watching it. We're going to make sure that we're very loud and out front, that we get as many of our colleagues here at the federal level and outside to make it known that this is an opportunity that Chair Gensler's just got to wake up and start to work with us, not against us.
Excellent. All right, Congressman Emmer, thank you so much. It's been great having you on again. We definitely want to get you back on the show. You're always bringing some great nuggets of information around what's happening there in D.C. Good luck to you on your vote today, and keep fighting the fight up there for us. We appreciate it so much for stopping in.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for what you're doing, getting the good word out.
All right, so we'll catch you guys later. Of course, if you're on the podcast right now, just, of course, give us a subscribe. If you're here on the YouTube channel, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the channel and make sure and hit the links below so you have, whether you have topics or issues, projects, CEOs, etc., technology that you want us to take a look at. The best thing to do is just hit us in the comments below. Of course, if you want to hit me up on Twitter, it's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.